Hello, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. If you are watching on our fast-growing YouTube channel, that's Tar Heel Illustrated. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me, as he always does, THI publisher Andrew Jones, and AJ here for another off-season UNC football ISO series podcast. And this one going to be focusing on UNC junior wide receiver Josh Downs. Really fun guy to talk about. I'm looking forward to this one, to say the least. Before we dive into it, though. Yeah, that's a good point, too. Good point on that. Before we dive into it, though, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor on this one, NIL Fanbox. So, guys, here's the spiel on them. For as little as $9.95 a month, UNC sports fans can receive officially licensed, authentic, autographed memorabilia from their favorite UNC men's and women's basketball players. Right now, it's getting ready to expand into the whole athletic program, which is really, really exciting, football included, delivered right to their door. And in return, players will earn money from their name, image, and likeness. Now, guys, so you guys know, this is cleared through compliance. UNC is all in on this as well. They partner with the university. So this is official gear, officially licensed. We've got a whole gallery of pictures of the women's basketball and men's team signing it. So I know this is real stuff. I can guarantee you're not getting some fake autograph that some Joe Schmo in North Dakota signed to sell online to make some money or something like that. That's not what you're getting here. This is real stuff. So yeah, no, right. Signed by the actual players.
Joe Schmo has a bad rep, man.
Yeah, he does, man. He's a guy that gets a lot of crap. You know what I mean? When you got a name like that, it's hard not to. So guys, if you want to sign up, save 10%, use that promo code HEELS22. Click the link below. It'll take you right to the Tar Heel fan box, where you can sign up with your information, enter that promo code to save 10% on your Tar Heel fan box. Really, really awesome partnership and a really, really awesome organization that's just doing things right, in my opinion, when it comes to NIL. And it's getting the kids money, but it's also rewarding the programs and stuff like that. So it's a big, big, big plus for everybody. All right, AJ, let's dive into Josh Downs in this one. I mean, where can you even really start? He had just an absolutely fantastic year last season for the Tar Heels. First team All ACC by not only ACC, PFF had him first team All ACC as well. Biletnikoff Award semifinalist, ACC Receiver of the Week 3 times last year. He had 8 or more catches in 11 of 13 games. I mean, the list just goes on and on with Josh Downs. Even had over 1,000 receptions last year as well, which actually was a program record receiving yards at over 1,300 yards last season for Carolina. So he's just a guy that continues to get better. There'll be a couple of clips we're running here of Josh Downs catching some touchdown passes in the spring game, kind of picking up exactly where he left off last season for the Tar Heels. And I think, AJ, when you think about Downs, you think elite. And I think you have to think elite because of what he was able to do last season in particular. He showed glimpses towards the end of his freshman season. You know, that Orange Bowl kind of stands out with that touchdown pass he had. And you're like, okay, this guy's got it. And then he kind of skyrocketed with his play in 2021 as a sophomore and really established himself as not only, you know, a top receiver in the conference, one of the best receivers in college football, no doubt about it, going into this season. So, AJ, when you look at Josh Downs, before we hit on maybe the future of his game and expectations this year, what are your thoughts on just the year that, looking back a little bit, that Josh Downs had and what he was able to kind of replicate going into spring ball? Because like I said, it seems like he hasn't missed a beat, and it seems like he's, if anything, from what we saw during the spring, has just continued to get better and improve his game.
Well, his game will be enhanced because they have more high-end options at receiver.
That's a good point.
If you look at his stats last year, he scored all of his touchdowns the first half of the year. He was defended differently once he hit about the middle of the season, and his receiving yards dropped. His touchdown basically went away, and it became more of a stress situation for the Tar Heels. So I think Josh Downs alone in normal coverage is a phenomenal college football player. This year, I think he's going to see a lot more of that. I love the whole, and we're going to do a Bryson Nesbitt pod eventually, but I think having a guy like Bryson Nesbitt, who's a tight end, but let's face, he's a receiver.
Yeah.
Dina told us that 2 years ago. This guy can run any route, he can line up anywhere. So in the spring game, you've got Bryson Nesbitt, 6'6", lining up at slot, and you've got Josh Downs on the edge. He's got to beat one guy. You can't dedicate 2 guys out there when you've got a 6'6" slot. And they're thin in the receiver room, but the guys that are in there are very good. Mac Brown, and I'm excited. This is what excites me. And this is all related to Josh Downs because he needs other good receivers to be the explosive guy that he has been at times. Mac said Antoine Green could be elite. They want him to be elite. Now, he's not going to use that word frivolously. just not going to throw it out there. It's not a throwaway word. That tells me that they met Antoine. We were thinking, okay, possession receiver, he could get behind the defense some, but maybe he can't do it all the time. He's never regained that speed he had before the terrible injury in 2018, right? But maybe that's coming back now. So if you've got an Antoine Green and you've got a 6'6" guy like Nesbitt who can line up in slot. And by the way, when Nesbitt's in slot, that means Kamari Morales is at tight end, who could also get open, catch the ball, and turn upfield. Suddenly, you've got all these options that need to be defended, and there's Josh Downs. You've got to pick your poison. Now, teams early might commit to stopping Downs, and the other guys are going to produce. And then when they have to change offensively, Downs is going to be in some ISO situations. I'm telling you right now, he's going to have some big, long touchdowns. Whoever the quarterback's going to be it Criswell, be it May, they're going to find him streaking down the sideline, getting over the top of the defense for some long touchdowns because of what the other guys do. It is a group that plays off of one another. And there is no better example of the importance of that than if you look at Downs' stats the first half of last season and the second half of last season. And it's worth bringing up because, let's face it, if the Tar Heels were a little bit better offensively in Pittsburgh, or a little bit better offensively in Raleigh, and they were pretty good at times that night, they were certainly running the ball, there were games that need to be a little bit better. And if Sam had more options and more guys were getting open, the sack numbers would have been down. The question about getting rid of the ball wouldn't have been issue because the open receivers would have been there and he would have gotten rid of the ball there. So much of what they do offensively is affected by this group. And if Josh Downs is exploding and he's running slot and he's running wide, and he's running every pattern because he can run every route, and he's catching the ball over the middle and darting upfield, and he's going down the sideline, that means the offense is in really good shape. Mm-hmm. And he'll be a great beneficiary because he is a stat sheet stuffer. He's going to catch the ball because he's going to be targeted. And if he's getting into the end zone, they're going to win games. And he has a chance to be first team All ACC again, first team All America, Biletnikoff Award, all that kind of stuff. But he's going to need some help. And if he has that help, we're going to see Josh Downs do things statistically that you haven't seen very often around Chapel Hill. He could sort of be the next Armando Bacot, where suddenly you wake up and he's closing in on all these statistical records, right? Mm-hmm. I think Josh Downs has a chance to have the kind of season puts him in record books that will stick around for a while. He can do that because of the other guys, because he's that good. If he has help, he's that good. He's a 100%. Phenomenal player. He's a phenomenal quote. He's an interesting guy. He's a supremely confident guy. And when I think about Josh Downs, I think about the gig him down in the bowl game, the Texas A&M. And that rule was put in place. And that rule was put in place. You can't do that anymore. And Josh Downs is the reason why. I love moxie. Yeah, I love moxie. I love that kind of stuff. That's his game. So if he's pounding his chest and doing whatever stuff the NCAA allows on the field now, a good thing because it means he's producing.
Yeah, he's related to Dre Blount too, so you know where he gets that moxie and swagger from on the football field. Let's be honest about that. He definitely gets it from him. You know, you talk about two guys who love showing off when they're out there and who can back it up with how good they are too. So I think that's
it. You back it up. It's part of their game. We talk about Caleb Love. Part of his game is he starts chirping on the court, right? And that's sometimes what a guy's game is. Josh Downs is a chirper. He's a chirper on the field. He's a nonstop talker on the field. It's part of his game. Embrace it, because it helps him hum the way he hums.
Real quickly, before we wrap this one up, what is when you talk about Josh's stats in the beginning of the year being better than it was at the end because of how defenses guarded him? You talk about Carolina. That shouldn't be as much of an issue because Carolina might not have as big of a receiver room, but they've got a lot of talent in what they do have, and they've got guys who have played snaps and can do different things. They're going to have to be guarded. You can't just leave them alone and guard Josh Downs. What's the next step for him? Is it just maybe being – I know he had a monster year last year, but is it just being more consistent throughout the whole year and just having those big – instead of, and it should be easier for him to do that when you consider he shouldn't be guarded the same way, shouldn't be able to be guarded the same way he was last year. So is it just maybe – it's kind of weird to say consistency with Josh Downs because he was so good last year, but is that maybe the next step for him, just doing it from, game 1 to game 13 or whatever it may be?
Well, now we're assuming that the room is a lot better. I think that there's every reason to believe that it will
seems be. Like it should be. Yeah.
How is he when he gets 4 targets a game because everybody else is getting more targets? One of the reasons the numbers were so high is because he was targeted so often. We do the stat reports every Sunday, and Josh Downs targeted 12 times, 8 receptions, 117 yards. What happens if the offense is better when Downs only targeted 8 times? Not because he's getting fewer targets, because they're spreading around.
Spread it around more.
How productive can he be in those 8 targets as opposed to 12 targets? What will the stats look like? How will he handle that? Those are all things that I think will be interesting to see. And I'm sure the staff has confidence he'll hit it just fine because the kid wants to win. All these kids are highly competitive. They want to win. But I think it's actually good for him, for the NFL to evaluate him as being one of a bunch of guys that can run routes and catch the ball. Also, it might mean that we see him block more. How well can he block? I know one of the things that has helped De'Ami Brown and up in Washington is he's a pretty good blocker. And he learned that when the current regime came in. Lonnie Galloway is really good at teaching blocking with his wide receivers. A lot of those big runs you see Carolina's backs have, and you saw Sam have a couple of times last year in Chandler and the year before with Javonte and Michaels, because you got receivers blocking downfield. You want to play in the NFL? Yeah, it's wonderful to be on film, running routes, breaking free and springing into the touchdown, but you got to block. And there are a lot of different kinds of blocks you have to do. So I think that it'll show more of that in his game. We'll learn more about him as an NFL prospect this year than we did a year ago, I believe.
Yeah. Last thing real quick. I just thought of this too. How important is it to have a guy like him who is so good and is just so kind of a safe hands when you got a new quarterback coming in this year? Because to me, that seems like a great added benefit to have if you're a guy that hasn't started before,
Well, that's a really good question because, sometimes you say, what do you want? Super experienced receivers with a green quarterback or a super experienced quarterback with green receivers? It depends how good the guys are. It's kind of, whatever your flavor is, right?
Yeah, give and take.
I think in their situation with a guy like Josh, even when he was defended by literally everybody on the opposing roster, there were 19 guys on him as soon as the ball was snapped, right? Yeah, he still produced. He was still catching the ball. He started moving the chains. You look at his first down numbers, they kind of picked up a little bit because he's still moving the chains, right? So the fact that he can be a burner, but also be a chain mover, a possession guy, he could do a lot of different things, and he's tough as all get out.
Yeah.
And he's not that big. But he's catching the ball inside of linebackers. He's going to get popped. He's got these hybrid guys on him. He knows he's got a safety coming up that's going to pop him and bring him down because everybody wanted to knock him out.
Kind of reminds me of Ryan Switzer in that respect, just with the toughness.
Yeah. Well, we might see more of that. Switzer had other guys out there that helped, but Switzer's game didn't fully evolve until his senior year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's when he became the full receiver because it took him – he was a running back in high school, so it took him a while.
Yeah,
I think we might, if we see more of that from Downs, he's going to make himself more of an NFL guy. So I think for a young quarterback like Criswell or Drake May to know that they have a likely NFL guy out there is huge. They know that if they go through their check down, that even if Downs is improvising, if you will, that you get the ball, he's going to catch it. He's not long, but he's so good at getting position.
Yeah.
He's so good at fighting for position and making himself available. So, and if he gets over the defense, you got a touchdown. So there isn't one team in college football that would not want Josh Downs, and he would start for every team in college football.
100%. I mean, like you said, program record, 101 receptions and receiving yards last year. And I think the receptions one is even more impressive when you think about it because of how much of an emphasis he was for opposing defenses. Still was able to set that record. It's unbelievable, really. So,
you don't think of receivers as grinders much, but, you mentioned Switzer. Remember that stretch of Pitt and FSU when he had, 14 and 16 receptions?
Oh, man.
How about those 3 fourth down receptions Switzer had on the winning drive in Tallahassee leading up to the long field goal that won the game? Mm-hmm. Nick Wilder's field goal. I mean, that was all toughness. That was his running back toughness coming out, by the way.
Getting popped in high school.
And Josh Downs has shown the same kind of toughness. Josh, you pop him, he's going to want to get up and show you up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't hurt me. I love that guy. So absolutely, he's going to make quarterback. He's going to make them better, and he's going to give them confidence. And I think he makes the rest of the room better with the confidence he gives them. Plus, when you know that you've got a flat-out dude in that room, it's just going to help everybody.
You're not lying about that. I think it's a great way to end this one and wrap this one up, AJ. The Josh Downs edition of our offseason UNC football ISO series. Or like I said, I threw a couple clips in here. Didn't have a ton from the spring game because I didn't shoot ISO specifically on him, but I did have a couple of touchdown passes that he caught in there as well. And just kind of shows how good of a player he is. So yeah, a guy I'm really looking forward to seeing what his trajectory is this year, because he was so good last year. If he can get even better, I mean, good Lord, he's going to be the best receiver in college football. And he wasn't too far off it last year as well. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well, so you know every single time we upload. And click that link in our description to go sign up for NIL Fanbox, just $9.95 a month. And you can use the promo code HEELS22 to save 10% on your Tar Heel Fanbox. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you all in the next one.
Thanks.